Hi there, I'm Brian. Welcome to my photo show. Today, Nikon FM versus FM2. Here's what we're going to do. I have in my hot little hands a copy of Modern Photography's test, contemporaneous test done when the FM2 was introduced back in 1982. So I'm going to go through this report, which details the differences between these two cameras rather thoroughly. Okay, and as I go, I'm simply going to point them out on the cameras where applicable or where practical. Okay, number one. So the article goes. Well, the article begins. What hath Nikon newly wrought in the FM2 compared to the FM? The major features are a new Copal-made Nikon-designed blade shutter made of 0.2 millimeter thick quilted titanium, and providing a 1/4000th second top speed, and also allowing an X-sync speed of 1/200th of a second rather than the standard 1/25th. Okay, that's the major advantage of the FM, right? That's what everybody knows. Okay, the FM, right? Basically, this one goes to 11, so to speak. The FM has the highest mechanical shutter speed ever done on any mechanical camera, 1/4000th. And the X-sync speed is 200 on this camera because this is an FM, not an FM2N. The FM2N has an X-sync speed of 250. That's what you get with the N. 1/3 stop faster shutter, excuse me, sync speed. That's it. That's the only difference between the FM2 and the FM2N. The FM, obviously, top shutter speed is 1/1000th. X-sync speed is 125, which still ain't bad. All right, let's continue. What else is new? Certainly the availability of interchangeable focusing screens. Okay, so the FM2 has the same focusing screen interchangeability as the FE, and I think it's the same screens. That is, I think they just took the FE system and adapted it to the FM2. You see that little, well, part right there. Nikon built a specific tool which was designed to engage this, which removes the focusing screen, and that's how you switched focusing screens, because the prism's not detachable, so you had to switch focusing screens that way. If you have some of the accessory screens, that's great. I really don't know how easy they are to find. I've never bothered looking. The standard K screen is fine by me. Okay, standard focusing screens, right? A better LED readout in which the positive, negative, and zero signals indicating over, under, and correct exposure light up themselves rather than diodes next to hard-to-see unit symbols. Hard-to-see unlit symbols, excuse me. Well, yeah, that's true, but in practice it really makes very little difference. These are outside the picture area. In the FM, the symbols protruded into the picture. Well, that's also true. In the viewfinder of the FM, the diodes protrude slightly into the frame. I've never found that to be a problem. It's just, I think it's largely a non-issue. In my opinion, maybe it's a big deal for you. The metering system is now turned on for about 30 seconds by slight pressure on the shutter release. Okay, so on the FM, the original FM, to turn on the light meter, you did this. That's why it has that red dot there, like on the Nicromats. That's to remind you that the meter is on. Because if you left the advance lever in the standoff position like this, the meter would stay on and drain the battery. You had to do this in order to shut off the meter. Whereas with the FM2, you need to, first of all, you can't fire the shutter unless this is deployed. And then you half press this, which will light the diodes for 30 seconds. And you can still, you can stow the advance lever, and the light meter is still going to be on, as opposed to the FM, which shuts off the light meter when you stow the advance lever. Okay. The upper limits of the ASA range have been doubled to 6,400. Okay, so apparently the ASA on the FM topped out at 1,600. Let's see if that's right. No! Check it out. On my FM, okay, on my FM, let's see if I can position that so you can see a little better. Here we go. The ASA range does go to 3,200. So apparently this was one of those changes that was gradually introduced by Nikon. Nikon did the same thing with the nichromats, particularly between the FTN and FT2. The FTN received some of the FT2's updates, or some updates that were advertised as new to the FT2. Nikon does this. They sort of gradually and slowly improve things. I'm assuming that earlier FMs had a top ASA range of 1,600, or else the magazine wouldn't have mentioned that. In fact, what they're probably doing is going through and comparing their old article to their new article. I'm guessing. Let's see here. The metering cell material has been switched from gallium to silicon. Why? We remember that only 5 years ago, gallium was touted as having better and more consistent protection against infrared ray interference. Our tests then failed to confirm this. We suspect that in the long run, with both cell materials being of equal quality, silicon has probably proved less costly than gallium. In any event, we see no loss to users in the switch back. So the FM uses gallium photocells to measure light. The FM2 uses silicon photocells to measure light, which are actually more common nowadays. You don't see a whole lot of gallium. There are a few cameras that use gallium, but not too many. Most when cameras started upgrading and they got rid of the old CDS system, or cadmium sulfide, they upgraded to either gallium or silicon, and silicon eventually became the standard. Not too many cameras were made with gallium meters, but apparently there's no drawback to it, at least not according to this magazine. The multiple exposure control is now far more convenient. That is true. That's for sure. The multiple exposure control on the FM is right here. You had to press this thing or slide this thing. No, I don't. You do. Here we go. You have to slide it like so. Here, I have to slide the. I don't know how you can see that while I'm doing it. To slide this like so. I don't know if you can see that move. There we go. There's lights on it now. Okay. There you go. So you got to slide that and hold it while you advance the shutter. Okay. Whereas on the FM2. It's here, and you simply, there you go. You hold, it's more, excuse me, here we go. It's reachable by the same hand, so you can hold this here while you're advancing it, and it's a little bit more convenient. I guess, again, I don't do a whole lot of, in fact, I can't remember the last time I shot a multiple exposure image, so I don't do much of that. But apparently the FM2 has a more convenient control, and so if you do multiple exposures, that might be something to think about. Additionally, the film box memo holder on the back has been enlarged. Wow! Check it out. The film. Okay, so here's the FM, right? Here's the FM2, and if we compare them, we can see that the film box on the FM is a little, let's see if I can hold it better in the light. There we go. So the FM2 has a larger film box holder. Yeah. Okay. Probably will not influence too many buying decisions, but there it is. And the depth of field lever is ribbed for a better gripping surface. Okay, man, these are some nitpicks. So here's the depth of field preview lever on the FM. It's a flat piece of plastic right there. And on the FM2, a ridged piece of plastic right there. They both do the same thing. They both function identically. That's major nitpicking. Okay. Self-timer lever. Oh yes, the new shutter required the self-timer lever to be closer to the lens mount. The lever contour itself has been redesigned and angled away from the lens mount so it can be reached more easily. So apparently, here's the self-timer lever on the FM. And on the FM2, you see that this apparently is the axis upon which it pivots had to be closer to the body of the camera, or closer to the lens mount rather. And so Nikon offset the little arm that you grab to activate it. That's it. Okay. The shutter release collar has turned from metal to plastic, as has the base of the shutter speed dial and rewind knob, all non-critical areas. Okay, so this is metal on the FM, FM2, that's plastic. Similar, base of the shutter speed dial here, base of the rewind knob here, this is chrome or aluminum or something, it's metal anyway. And here on the FM, base of the shutter speed dial and the rewind knob are black plastic. And modern photography says these are non-critical areas. That sounds right. But the rewind shaft itself, plastic in the FM, and much criticized with reports of shafts having snapped under rough usage, is now metal. So that's kind of a big deal. Now, I've never heard of an FM doing that, but apparently this part right here, the thing here, that part is on the FM is plastic, and the FM2 is metal. Okay, so there, that's metal, as opposed to plastic on the FM. Got that? See? Yeah, it's black plastic. Okay. So there you go. Score 1 for the FM2. That is a structural improvement. Okay. The FM2 sports a rubberized ring eyepiece to prevent eyeglass scratching. Well, my FM has that too. This thing around my eyepiece on my FM is also rubber, although that could have been replaced by the previous owner. I have no idea. Although the article does go on to say that, however, upon checking, we found that later FM cameras also had this improved eyepiece. So maybe your FM will have the rubber eyepiece, maybe it'll have a metal eyepiece. If it has a metal eyepiece, then it's an earlier model. Body weight has been dropped 50 grams compared to the FM. I assume that's because of the plastic usage in the non-critical areas, I guess. I don't know. The article continues. Into each FM2, a few small minus points do fall. You may have noticed at the outset of this report, we carefully said, quote, virtually nothing is lost from the FM, unquote. One loss may or may not be of importance to you. It's the meter coupling lever that could be locked up on the FM, allowing older non-auto indexing AI Nikon lenses to be fitted and metered in the stop-down mode. Here's what they're talking about. And this is the major disadvantage of the FM2, in my opinion. The FM, here is the AI tab on the FM. Notice it is metal. If I push in this button, I can move the metering tab out of the way so that I can now mount a pre-AI lens which will not interfere with the AI tab. Okay, for regular AI usage, simply put it back. On the FM2, it's difficult to see because it's black. You can see it better here. The ridge is, here's the ridge, right there. The ridge and the ring is one piece of plastic. This is all one piece of plastic, as opposed to the more complex mechanism on the FM. That obviously makes the camera cheaper to manufacture, therefore more profitable, but it does lose a rather significant ability, in my opinion. I think that's a big deal. Continuing. The outer rim of the shutter speed dial has a less grippable knurling. Okay, so the outer grip of the shutter speed dial on the FM has these little notches here. On the FM2, it's like ribbed, as opposed to knurled, I suppose. I don't know. Yeah, no difference in actual practical usage. No difference whatsoever. As to the exposures and finder ability of the Nikon FM2, in use they are near identical with the FM, of which we reported in October 1977. Okay, so modern photography is telling us that in practice these two cameras function virtually identically, because after the part of the article I just read, it goes on to simply reprint 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs from its 1977 test of the FM, essentially detailing the operation of the camera, because they're so close as to be virtually identical. And that's about it. And here we go. Here's the part of the report that shows you the viewfinder. I mean, again, the viewfinder's, it's virtually identical. There's just really no major difference whatsoever. Okay, so there's your FM versus your FM2. The FM is much less expensive. A nice FM2 goes for about $300 to $350. A nice FM goes for about $100 to $150. So the FM2 has got about a $200 price premium to it. You need to really want that top shutter speed to pay $200 for that. If you're getting the high top shutter speed so that you can shoot portraits in wide open aperture in daylight conditions, you can do the same thing with a 2-stop neutral density filter, which is going to cost you a lot less than $200. Plus, if you get the FM, you can mount the pre-AI lenses, which I think is a big advantage. So that's just my two cents worth. Well, there you go. There you have it. Modern photography's contemporaneous rundown of the differences between the FM and the FM2. And that concludes this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.